good morning, and welcome to the Brenda Perryman Show right here on TV 33, WHPR, Comcast 90 in Detroit, and all over the world, courtesy of the World Wide Web. And we have a great show for you this morning. My second guest is Mr. Julian Hayes, and he has a program that you want to hear about. But my first guest, I'm so excited to have him on. This is Reverend Gregory Geist of Unity Temple. Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to say thank you for having me on this wonderful show.
Oh, I'm just happy that you're here. And isn't it a perfect time? Seriously, it is a perfect time to have somebody who knows the word and to come on. And, well, we're going to talk about that a little later.
One of the things I have to say, it is a perfect time because right now, I have never in my life seen a time period where we need more love and we need the spiritual word to come forward, because right now it's almost like a tsunami taking place where people do not know what and how to respond to a situation, to a word called fear.
Yeah, and we talked about that. But in case there are people who don't know, let's get a little bit of Pastor Geist's background.
Well, first of all, I am a native Detroiter, as you already know, and I was, my family's traditionally from Alabama and Georgia.
What part of Alabama?
The great Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay. My family, my father, Tuscaloosa.
Well, I got family members there. I tell people, Geist is a great Alabama name. You know, seriously, my grandfather, Rufus Charles Geist, Charles come from that aspect, actually worked with Dr. King. He founded the first church in Homewood, Alabama. And I was so very proud of that when I found out. He passed in 1966, but I was very proud of the fact that when Dr. King came through, he was very much involved in that movement back then. And I never really had a chance to know him. And so once I became a minister, it was my duty and my drive to actually find out about his church. So I was contacted church when I found out they didn't have a minister, and I called down there, and the curator of the Birmingham Civil Rights Museum, I happened to discover that where he was at, and my brothers and myself, and I told them, well, no charge, I would like to go down there and speak. So they accepted the invitation. We drove down there, and at the moment I got to that church in Homewood, Alabama, my family who was living there all showed up. And the curator told me that my grandfather had baptized him.
Really?
And what made it so amazing that all the individuals who were baptized by my grandfather showed up. And there, when I got to his office, was a big, huge picture of my grandfather.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, you're talking about feeling proud.
Yeah.
And then to know that my grandfather was involved with those ministers who helped Dr. King. And to walk on that podium, the original podium, and stand there. My grandfather must have stood about 6'4", very animated. And my talk title was, if I could speak to my grandfather, what would he say? And I spoke about the fact that he would tell me to never give up the struggle, always remember God in my life. And to speak from that moment, I could feel the spirit of my grandfather taking over. I may not be 6'4", but my spirit felt much higher than that on that day.
Well, you know, the thing is, we talked about fear, and you think about the civil rights leaders, they were fearless. You know, maybe inside they felt some fear because they went up against a lot.
But, you know, that's the difference I think that many of us don't have. They don't have that fearless energy today.
Right.
You know, many of us have felt trapped. That's why, you know, when we started, I told you I had to look up something.
Right.
When I woke up that morning, and my mind went to 2 Timothy, the first chapter, 7th verse, where it says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And we got to remember that, because, see, throughout our history, that was the one aspect that God gave us, because he didn't create a fearful people. He created a people of love and power. I mean, how was Moses able to do what he did? How could Paul do what he did?
Right. Absolutely. And fear right now, what we're encountering. And well, before I do that, just a little bit more about you. When did you decide to become a minister?
Oh, after a long journey of overcoming many issues. You know, I have a master's in clinical psychology. And I never forgot when I went to school at the Center for Humanistic Studies, and he asked me what did I want to do for my thesis or what did I want to write on. And I said my whole life has been about overcoming adversity because I had polio as a child,
Mm.
and I had to overcome that. And when I looked at what I wanted to write about, so I wrote my thesis was the courage to overcome adversity. And then I realized that throughout my life that was the major aspect. And then so I worked with not only with Head Start, but it was just a calling of working with youth when I was teaching in Head Start, and when Young Boys Incorporated was terrorizing our cities, and I found myself engaging over at St. Teresa working with youth.
St. Teresa's.
Yes.
I graduated from St. Teresa. Seriously.
Yeah.
It was a high school back then,
Well,
back in the day.
well, I taught there, right over there at St. Teresa's.
Oh my gosh. That's
We're
amazing.
getting to know each other on the spot.
I know.
And yeah, I taught there. And then right over there in that Dexter Joy Road area.
Yeah.
Yes. And so one of
Pingree and all
yes,
that.
I used to,
Quincy.
this is live, y'all.
Yes.
So as I got engaged, and so my engagement was always building and getting involved. We created a program called St. Teresa's Family Enrichment Program,
Okay.
and getting involved with SCLC and getting involved. And you know, when you're involved from a community perspective, working with youth, when you're involved from serving in our community, it leads you into ministry, whether you know it or not.
Oh, yes, yes. A ministry doesn't necessarily have to be, everybody who's doing something has a ministry.
Absolutely, and you know that because you've been a minister yourself.
Well,
You when you've been, as I know you, when you've been working with young people, when you as a
yes,
teacher,
yes.
and I've been teaching. You know, once we start doing that, a teacher, a true teacher, is a minister.
And they're with you forever. They're
So
with you forever.
so I found I was attending Detroit Unity Temple, and Reverend Argentina Glasgow asked me a question: have you ever thought about being a minister? And then, as a person I know, you know, Reverend Ruth Mosley.
I've heard of her.
Well,
Yeah.
she had a program called the Urban Ministerial School, and I was redirected there. And before that was 20 years ago that I was ordained as a Unity Urban Minister.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. Well, you've told me a lot about your life too when we had a conversation.
Yes.
And through your life, you have overcome so much of adversity. And we talk about the Ides of March, you and I.
Oh,
We talked about that. And Reverend Geis really, have you written a book yet?
oh, I've written two books.
Oh, good, good.
And one book right now was written about something that occurred. Well, almost 2007, a day from today, the day is March the 13th, 2007, March 14th, my daughter was killed by a drunk driver.
Yes, yes.
And she was on spring break in Florida, and a drunk driver took her life. God rest her soul. But she always encouraged me to write a book, and I guess this is timely as well. But the title of the book was The Courage to Overcome Fear.
Wow.
And so my first book was The Courage to
Yes.
Conquer Fear. And from that book, because one of the things I saw from working with young people was I was talking to young people, and as I was talking about the things they love, and I brought up the fact, I asked them one question: what do you fear? And you should have seen the change in their eyes as they began to talk about what they fear. Not only what they feared for the future, but what they feared in their neighborhood, what they feared from just walking the street. Because fear captures a person's soul. And I began to realize that just like we're seeing taking place right now,
Right now.
fear cripples a person.
Right, right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I thought about the fact that you too, you had a
Oh.
aneurysm, right?
Listen, this is so ironic. On the 16th will be exactly 4 years ago, I had a brain aneurysm. 4 years ago, come March the 16th.
Right.
I was at home by myself. And I'm not sure if many in your audience understand what a brain aneurysm is, but I was at home by myself and had a phone similar to this at my bedside. And I thought I was having a migraine. And I happened to had this, woke up to a pain I'd never felt before. And it was a pain I cannot even fully describe. But at that last moment, I knew it was something that was more than a migraine. And I found myself beginning to black out. But I had enough energy and strength through God's will to grab my phone. I dialed my wife. And as I dialed that number, she sensed something was wrong, something terribly wrong. So she dialed 911 after because I had enough energy to dial her once, and I dialed her again, and I could barely call her name. What she tells me is that the police had to come in and kick our front door in to get to me. She was on her way to Canton, Michigan. She got there as the police had broken the door, and they had to rush me to West Bloomfield Henry Ford. They were not able to do the surgery that was being called necessary, and they rushed me to Henry Ford, downtown Detroit, and they performed a neurosurgical cranial operation. And seconds mattered because the aneurysm had burst and blood was rushing through my brain. At that particular time, I had a stroke at the same time, and I was unconscious for 4 weeks. And when I came out of that part, I had a trach in my neck. I had a feeding tube in my stomach. I was unable to talk. I was barely able to lift up my left arm. I had to learn how to walk, how to talk. I couldn't even button a shirt. I was in a wheelchair for the next month and a half, going to a walker. I had to go through speech therapy. I had to learn how to drive. I was going through a whole challenge. And during that time period that I was unconscious for 4 weeks, it seemed like just a moment. I remember crossing over, and at that very moment that I was in that space of time, now remember what I told you earlier, my daughter had made her transition on March the 14th.
Right.
This took place on March the 16th. Her spirit met me in that very moment that I crossed over. I truly believe that her spirit blocked me from completing that transition.
Goodness. Yes.
And during that time frame, I learned so much in that moment about the great I am that lives within all of us. That idea of fear,
yes,
no, I lost that fear.
Right.
I lost that fear. I think that was the lesson that Jesus gave us when he returned to his disciples and shared with them the love of life that he shared with them about so much. I came back. The next sermon I gave to the church was on August the 12th.
Of the same year.
Of the same year. I walked on that podium, on that stage at Detroit Unity Temple. And the talk I gave was about that moment. And I called it about the greatness of the greatness of God.
Well, you know, I always think, because you know I had a catastrophic
talk
event,
to me now.
but I always think that God spares us for a reason. We're not done.
No.
And
no.
you weren't done.
Nor
And
you.
Well,
look at you
well,
now.
it changed my whole philosophy of life, you know, but that's me. It changed because I was only 18 at that time, but it makes you, I mean, I had to go through a few things after that because I still wasn't convinced that I was here to do some things, you know.
Yes.
But you were at that age, stage, and spiritual fullness where you knew what you had to do. So my question is, right now, the media, everybody, we're talking about the coronavirus.
Right.
You're talking about fear.
Right.
The shelves of stores are empty.
Yes.
That's fear.
Oh, yes.
So what can we tell our audience about how to get through this? Because we will get through this.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I would tell people is that first of all, don't stop doing what you're supposed to do, which is loving yourself and loving others. See, what fear does, it invades your psychic system. But what you should realize is all we have to do is continue to be who we are supposed to be in the first place.
Yes.
You know,
Expound on that.
okay,
Yes.
because see, what we fail to realize is that virus is awakening us to understand the godness within us, because we should be washing our hands in the first place already. We should already be wiping down our areas we're at already. We should already be making sure that we pull out our handkerchief and covering our mouth when we sneeze in the first place.
Let me just say something real quick. I was at the symphony the other day. The guy behind me coughed, and everybody looked around. It was just,
Right.
it.
That fear takes on, it grips the mind.
Yeah.
And what we have to realize is that we used to say a long time ago, cleanliness is the next thing to godliness.
Yeah.
And that was always the understanding that godliness is a part of cleanliness. And we have to understand that toxemia
Oh yeah.
is the things that bring on dis-ease in the first place. If we were always taught to keep a clean house, to maintain a godliness. If we take care of those factors and realize that a person already has a godly space, that they should always be respected, it's okay for me to put my hand on my heart and reach out to you and say, I behold the Christ in you. It's okay to take the steps, but in order to reduce this virus that has gripped everyone, it's okay to pause and recognize that I see God in you, and tell them that. They'll be okay with that, because as we begin to lovingly embrace each other instead of fearfully trying to distance ourselves from one another, it's a whole different mindset. And people got to realize that either you're going to let fear control you, or you're going to embrace the love of God that will prepare you and accept you and reduce the fear around you. When you come to church on Sunday, you will hear me talk about embracing God instead of embracing fear.
Right, right. They called me from your church the other day, and they asked me what the title of my speech was. Well, when she first asked me, I said, I don't know. Then I thought about it. It's going to be She Who Limps is Still Walking.
And I love it.
Because that's a metaphor. That's exactly what you're talking about. We have to use what we have. That is so important. So fear begets panic sometimes.
Yes. And people don't realize that when you panic, you don't think. People don't realize that it's hard to think in fear. It is very hard to think in fear because you're reacting from a negative foundation of thought. I mean, once a person can get you to start thinking in fear, you are not processing all the options properly. You are just running and backing up. You're overreacting, and you're not seeing all the proper actions. When you are processing in love, we also were talking about the idea of kinesiology and how that system works with the muscles in your body. I will tell you, fear reduces the immune system. It does not allow the immune system to properly protect you. It doesn't enhance it. Love builds the immune system. Love enhances the immune system. It is a vibrational frequency that enhances the immune system. Fear weakens the immune system and allows the bacteria, it allows the virus to attack the immune system. And we need to be very careful about that. And you will find that those who have a positive energy, those who have strong will have a very stronger immune system itself. And we have to make sure that, and if I tell you right now, if you fight someone with a positive attitude, who have a loving attitude, they will have a stronger opportunity to withstand the negative vibrations that will come at you, or disease.
Right, absolutely. And because I've seen things happen, somebody said to me Well, I've heard this 2 or 3 times. Said black people can't get the coronavirus. I seriously. I mean, people I respect. They
Right.
said that to me, but I said, what about those 2 Utah Jazz basketball
Right,
players?
they got it.
I know they look black to me.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
You know, sometimes we'll take on some crazy perspective, but what they may not have been doing is just taking the proper precaution. We still have to apply wisdom. We still have to apply common sense. And no matter who you are, that doesn't mean applying proper procedures in how you live your life. That's the thing I will always tell people. You don't run into a fire. That's not common sense. But you apply common sense no matter what you're doing in life. And with common sense and that wisdom, you take on those proper procedure and you apply love with it. But this ownership of things we have to do in order to reduce it. And when it comes to our community, this is an opportunity for us to clean up our community. This is an opportunity for us to clean up our neighborhoods. This is an opportunity for us to clean up our churches. This is an opportunity for us to clean up our homes. This is an opportunity for you to clean up your body. This is an opportunity for you to fast. This is an opportunity for you to clean up your mind, your body, and your spirit. So instead of looking at this as a negative aspect, look at this whole thing as an opportunity for you to change your lifestyle.
Well, the Chinese have the same symbol for opportunity and disaster.
Oh,
Yes, they do.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
So it depends on what you want to do with that,
Right.
you know?
No, that's
Seriously.
great. That says a lot. Just
Yeah.
by changing or reversing the energy
Yes,
around it.
which way are you going to go with that?
Oh, I love that.
Right. So I think we're at this point where which way we're going to go with that.
Oh,
And
that's wow.
we're talking to friends on the phone, or we see people, or a lady. I didn't even know her yesterday, but we were sitting next to each other and just start talking, and she was saying her husband went to Costco. There were 500 people in line for the toilet paper. You know, and I mean, that's what's happening. There's been a run on things to the point, I mean, Target shelves are
Empty.
empty.
You know, but I love that symbol, a Chinese symbol,
Yeah.
that the symbol for either disaster or opportunity.
Opportunity.
And that rings so true
And
in
it
life.
goes with what you're saying. We have this opportunity to clean up.
Oh, and that takes place in life. And so often a person, I always say you're one step from homelessness
Yeah.
or greatness.
Yeah.
And here we are at the threshold of changing our world. And what do you do at this moment? Are we going to let fear dictate how we respond? And right now, this avalanche, this tsunami of how people are responding or looking at it in a way for what we do with it, because it is a historical moment. And we have to look at, as you say, schools are closing and everything is impacting our society. But how we stand collectively and think for a moment, what's going to happen in the future? Are we going to share resources? Are we going to come together as a people? Are we going to gather together and begin to utilize our creative mindset to talk about it? Are we going to believe that God is still in charge, that God is a part of who we are? Are we
Right.
going to let fear lead us into a negative mentality?
Well, let's look at the fact that 9/11 changed the way we lived at that time.
Absolutely.
It did. And this is going to, we'll come out of it, but it is going to change the way we look at things too. But here's the thing, it's that opportunity to help our neighbor
Yes.
who may not be able to sustain themselves during this time.
And think about this. Now all of a sudden HIV is no longer
I know. I know.
all of a sudden that is no longer a dreaded threat.
Right.
And-
But you remember
Yeah.
back in the day,
Right, when
yeah,
it was, so everybody was
when
running
Magic
around.
Johnson
Right.
came
And we
up.
came through that, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden that's just another. That's something that was able to get through. People didn't even want to touch each other, and now here we are, gotten past. As we will get past this as well, but we didn't lose out. What people have to remember is that this too shall pass, and we have to remember the God within us is the greatest factor of all. If we don't lose sight of our spirituality, if we don't lose sight of the God within us, if we don't lose sight of love, that's the greatest, still the greatest energy.
Tell my audience.
Listen, if I can say one thing, there's only two energies in the world, love and fear. One of those you must choose. You're either going to choose fear or you're going to choose love. So which one is going to be your choice? If you choose love, it's going to be something that's going to build you and strengthen you. If you choose fear, it's going to lead you down a dirty, strange road because you're going to react and you're going to respond in a very negative way. But if you choose love, it's going to lift you even higher than you can ever imagine. It's something that God has given us. I repeat once again to 2 Timothy, the first chapter, the 7th verse. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind." And that is very important for us to remember that.
Absolutely. So as we go forward, you've talked about the thing, just doing the things we're supposed to be doing in the first place.
Yes, that is very important. I mean, that's common sense. Wash your hands. Have that hand sanitizer with you. Begin to make sure you do it on a regular basis.
Right.
Make sure if you have I have a handkerchief in my hand, in my pocket right now. If I start sniffling, bring it out. Cover my face.
Right.
You know, and maintain laughter and joy. Maintain a sense of positive attitude because God is within you. God is something special and positive because we have to realize that God is still in charge of all of this. And when you lose that attitude, it's not the president, it's not nobody else, but the God inside of you that makes everything still go around.
That's interesting because yesterday I said it does, and I'm going to go to the president a minute. He doesn't seem to have God inside of him at all from the manifestations, what he says, and everything. And I fear what's going to happen to him
Well,
because I've never, well, okay. Remember, I said we got to reach out to our neighbors. We
yes,
got to help our neighbors. We
yes,
can't always think about ourselves.
right,
We got to help our family.
right.
I don't think he wants to help his neighbors.
Well, when you consider the fact that the ramification, when you say there will be no travel from Europe into the United States, when you consider the fact of how many parts around the world internationally makes up the development of American products or cars, how are you going to separate yourself on the international market?
Right, absolutely.
How many American families live abroad?
Right.
How many?
I know
How
some.
so? How do you separate yourself? So he makes statements that really don't connect to make feasibility or even real reality. So I'll hold him in my prayers that life
Yes,
and
you've
wisdom
got to.
be impacted with him as well. But that's what I mean when I say you react to fear, you make statements because you haven't thought through the whole process or you think in a singular relationship, as you point out.
And quickly, I just want to say we can't panic
No, no,
because when we panic, we don't think.
that's
Um,
and that's what we've been seeing taking place. Because you think about how everybody want to shut down, and that's the challenge we have is that fear causes things to become squeezed, and it shuts everything down. It causes the entire lungs and the human body to be squeezed and tight, and it stops circulation. And that's what is taking place in the body or in the heart. Fear causes that in the system. It tightens it up, and that's what we're witnessing as school systems, as churches, as every element start stopping the circulation of good, of your breath, of your heart, of your mind. And that's what fear does. It chokes the system. So we can't let that happen to us.
well, I appreciate what you've told us, and this morning, I hope that everyone becomes sensitive to the words of Reverend Geis and what he says about fear. You know, God tells us not to fear,
Yes.
but you know, we're going to be concerned.
Yes.
You know that.
Oh, no. As we become concerned, just know that God is, as we say, we can do all things through Christ and do the things that we should be doing. Just do it with love. Just do it with common sense. And don't stop doing the things we should do
Right.
with wisdom. And that doesn't mean don't clean your house. That doesn't mean don't wash your hands.
Right.
Wipe down the things, clean up areas, wipe the handles down. Keep doing all those things. And I never will say don't do those things.
Right, right. And we have to remain prayerful.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you so much for this morning.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I'm looking forward to speaking at your church this Sunday.
Which is Detroit Unity Temple, which is located at 17505
and
2nd Avenue.
The service starts at what time?
10 o'clock.
And if people have questions, what...
They can call 313-345-4848.
And there's a website.
Yes, just simply go to Detroit Unity Temple, and you can go right there to the website.
Well, thank you, Reverend Geis, so much.
Thank you.
Oh, we gotta do that. Okay, everyone, stay tuned for Mr. Julian Hayes.
Welcome, Judge Mathis. Thanks for coming to share an important message with the Wayne County taxpayers.
Well, thank you for allowing me to help. You know, most of my life I was a resident of Wayne County, and so I'm here to help because Treasurer Shabri wants to work with Wayne County homeowners to keep families in their homes and prevent foreclosure.
If you're having trouble making your property tax payments, let us know. We have many resources to help.
Take the first step towards staying in your home by going down to the Wayne County Treasurer's office on the 5th floor of the International Building in Greektown.
Stop by today to learn more about our payment plans and especially the newly extended interest rate reduction program.
Already in a payment plan? It's important you stay in good standing.
Making property tax payments is now easier than ever. We have placed payment kiosks in Rite Aid stores and community centers across the county. We've also added kiosks in our offices. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com.
107.3 FM, WVIE.
How would you like for this to be you? Well, it could be. If you have the desire to be an independent radio personality, paying yourself, this is your chance. WVIE 107.3 FM and WHPR 88.1 FM are looking for people with outgoing personalities who can attract sponsors. Launch your career on a radio station with the latest technology in broadcasting. WVIE 107.3 and WHPR 88.1. If you're into talk, R&B, oldies, jazz, gospel, or soca, Radio We Can See is where you need to be.
88.1 FM, WHPR.
Have your own radio show. Block time is available. Call 313-868-6612. Radio We Can See, broadcasting live in the Virgin Islands and Detroit. Find us on Comcast Channel 90 and worldwide on Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, and all of your favorite platforms.
To be able to meet people from different countries enriches our lives.
Wayne County gave me so much, my degree, who I am.
The college supports you to grow. They have the different campuses. I'm like, I can try this. Makrit Shunga, Ethiopia.
Sandra Gonzalez, Mexico.
Arminalda Carrick, Bosnia.
Javed Khan, Bangladesh. Go to Wayne County, they will find your path and you will know what to do next.
I am back. I am back with a very industrious young man. I'd like to introduce you to Julian Hayes. Good morning, Julian.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, let's talk up. Let projection be our life here. And Julian, you have an interesting perspective on things. Can you give us a little of your background? Are you a native Detroiter?
Yes, ma'am. I grew up here in Detroit, Michigan. I actually grew up on 7 Mile between the Evergreen and Southfield area.
Yeah.
I attended Emerson Middle School. I went to Redford High School. So I know the ins and outs of Detroit.
So wait a minute. Now tell me, what happened after high school? Because you had a kind of interesting life.
Oh yeah. After high school, let's talk about during high school. During high school, I made some immature decisions in life where I got into the gang life. I went and selling drugs, things like that, where it seemed like life was coming at me so fast that I was making the decisions that life was handing to me.
Was there a necessity? Did you feel it was a necessity to do that?
It was not too much of a necessity. Sometimes people let their
peer
environment,
pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure, and sometimes your environment becomes your explanation. Meaning, there were things around me that seemingly made me think that this was the right road to go down, and then I started to adjust to that atmosphere. And so that was high school, in high school. And then I wanted to, I eventually finished school because I recognized that, there was something more in life that was.
Well, after you finished high school, were you still slinging?
No. Actually I was. But I knew that it was something better on the other side of that.
What about your family life at that time?
My family life, we were connected. We had a family. I grew up with a single mother. But she had 5 boys. I'm the fourth of 5 boys.
I bet you all wrestled all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing about boys; they wrestle.
Sure enough. And sometimes I had to see my mother struggle to maintain the household and maintain the structure of a household. And so that was one of the reasons I got into the streets, is because I didn't want to see my mother struggling to the point where if I could help, I wanted to make sure that I could.
Did you help?
I helped. I took care of the bills. She'll tell you.
Really?
Yeah, that was one of the things I did with the funds of my slanging, is I take care of the house.
Okay. What made you turn around? Was there an epiphany? Was there a point?
Yeah, it was. I remember very, very, let's just put it like this. I was on the east side of Detroit, and I was walking up a street, and in my walking up a street, somebody, start shooting at me. and in that shooting it at me, I knew that was not the life that I wanted to continue. And so I had moved to the east side. Then I recognized, I said, hey, this east side, if I stay here, I know for a fact I'm not going to make it past this summer. So what I did, I packed my bags and went back to the west side of Detroit and moved back with my mom. Yeah. And so there sometimes it's not what was done, it's something that that you need to do so you can adjust to a better future.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So what happened then?
When I moved back to Detroit, to the west side rather, I moved back to the west side, and I went to real estate school. I went to Real Estate 1 Academy.
Okay.
And at that particular time, the real estate market was, kind of failing. And then I said, I went to get little trivial jobs. But I started seeing that the work model was something that I wanted to continue in my life. I wanted to build. I wanted to build a resume. I wanted to build something that I did not see modeled for me. My father, he was there but not there, and so in that I had to create I wanted to create something and be something for my younger brother that we did not see.
Okay.
So in that, I continued to work, and I worked at AutoZone. I worked at this company called Dictation Sales and Service. So I was building a resume, not knowing that my future was getting ready to greet me with something bigger than I seen initially.
Okay. So you went to the corporate world, right?
Yes, I'm gonna tell you this. This was something I did not see coming. I went to a company that I initially was a security guard.
Really?
I'm talking about sitting at the front desk, and working there, and I was faithful to that. I was faithful to it because I earnestly believe that God had a present that he was trying to deliver to me. But I did not know how he was going to bring it, but I was faithful to the process.
Right.
And in that process, I gained favor with the CEO of the company. She was in transition. She was transitioning out. And in her transition, she had told the incoming CEO, he's a guy from Wall Street in New York, she told him, she said, I want you to take care of that guy. Whatever you do, I want you to take care of that guy. I guess we both didn't understand, how he was going to do that. Mm-hmm. But eventually he did his part and he did his job. So what that means, Miss Perryman, is that
Brenda.
I just respects my elders.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Let's not be all that
Okay.
elder. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, though.
He comes to me and says, "Hey, man, I need you to do something for me." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm just sitting at this desk, security guard. What do you need me to do?" He says, "I want to start working and building you up. I want to live up to the promise that I gave to the former CEO."
Uh-huh.
So he started doing that. So I went from just a regular security guy to the head of security. Then I went from the head of security to the director of security. Then I went from the director of security to having other departments up under me. So I had the transportation department. I had the greeters department. I had the security department. I had a plethora of departments where I ended up having 5 departments up under me. No college education.
Right.
I had a staff where they had master's degrees up under me.
Right.
And it was just amazing to see that if you trust the process and if you have your faith in the Lord. I was listening to the Reverend, and he was talking about fear and fear and love. Fear gives you a unfair advantage, and then in that advantage it gives you is that you can quit before you start. And you don't want to be able, and my thing is, I did not want to be a person that wanted to adjust to quitting. I didn't want to adjust to fear. So what I did was stuck to the process, and to the point where it got to the point where I was the right-hand man to the CEO of the company.
Okay.
So I had about 30 employees that worked up under me.
But that tells you something too about relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Relationships sometimes can be more important than 5 college degrees. Mm-hmm. If you're reliable and you have a good relationship with people, no telling where you could go.
Oh yeah, anytime you have an opportunity to capitalize on changing the dynamic of your future, you have to take that opportunity and you have to take it running.
Well, like Reverend said, you were doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. You had to be doing the right thing, because people in corporate, they are very cognizant of their money, of where things go. They recognize leadership, and you had
that. It was. I'm a firm believer if you trust the process. Don't get me wrong here. I had moments in that process that I wanted to give up.
I'm sure.
I wanted to give up. It was sometimes the easiest thing is giving up. And I just understood that it was something on the other side of where I was. And I kept my foot on the gas. And I understood that life will only give you what you're expecting. And sometimes it will give you, of course, it gives you unexpected turns and curves. But the bump, I have this conversation piece where I talk about the bumpy road. There's a even coming here, there's a destination that you have to get to, but sometimes you have to take the bumpy road to get there. There's no alley, there's no shortcut. There's no other alternative to get to this destination. You might have to change a flat tire, you might have to catch a broken windshield or something along the way, but it's necessary for the destination. So don't get caught up on the process, or don't get so caught up on the road. Just focus on the destination. That has much more of a better conversation than the road does.
Right, because that road could be full of so many things. So what happened next?
What happened next? I got to the point where I recognized that purpose was ready to meet me. In working the corporate world, and also I am a minister also of a thriving millennial church in the city, New Life Family Church. So I work closely with my pastor, Pastor Welton Smith, also. And in that, I've learned in being with connections in relationships, and being the right hand to in the corporate world and to my pastor. I learned that sometimes the second seat is just getting you prepared for the next seat. And then that I'm a firm believer when purpose is ready to meet you, the worst thing you can tell purpose is that you're not ready yet. And I believe that purpose was saying, hey man, we're ready to meet you. Are you ready to step up to that plate?
That makes me think about the fact that I never wanted to be a leader. Mm-hmm. I never did. I just said, I just want to go along. I'm a part of the get along gang. Mm-hmm. And sometimes life thrusts you into that situation. Mm-hmm. I think about my son, who just loved playing basketball. And when he got to college, he was, he was kind of heralded. He played basketball. And then one night at dinner, he had dinner with this other basketball player. He went to University of Dayton. And this player, Chris, they had dinner and stuff. The next morning, Chris was dead.
Wow.
Chris died in his sleep. And it was such a shock. It made national news. I don't know, may have had a heart arrhythmia or something. But the point is, God had to thrust my son into that leadership position as a sophomore as opposed to being a senior. And I remember that their game was supposed to be that Saturday in New York, but I flew in and I met the bus at the hotel to give him that little boost. And I remember him laying across my bed, and he said, Mom, I've never felt like this before. He did not know. He hadn't had anyone close to him pass away and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer that God puts you in situations that you may not even think you belong in. You know what I'm saying? So here he put you in this situation. You kept on, but you were fearless about it. You said, golly, I want to walk away. But if I walk away, what can be the consequences of me walking away?
See, a leader, when becoming a leader, you have to recognize what you've seen along the way.
Yeah.
It's nothing, I think everybody has a leadership quality in them. They have to understand the development along the way.
But there's a responsibility of leadership.
Oh, sure enough. And not only responsibility, there's an accountability.
Yes.
And you have to be able to hold the account of being a leader. And then you have to understand I think a lot of people do not want to take the leadership positions because of the option of failing. I understand, even being a leader today, I understand the conversation that failure has. I know I failed before, but every time I fail forward.
Okay, so right now, you have Imagine Me.
Imagine Me.
Me.
Imagine Me. Let me give you kind of the concept of Imagine Me.
Okay, tell my audience about it.
Imagine Me. One day I was riding a up the street, and I was transitioning from the company into something else, and I was trying to figure out what was purpose trying to explain to me. And in that ride, I recognized that a lot of times life will have a conversation with you without your permission. And in that, I was wondering what was the next thing and what was the next best thing for me. And in that, Imagine Me came to life. Imagine me, all I would remember in that passenger seat, imagine me walking in my purpose. Imagine me walking in my destiny. Imagine me living the architecture life that God has assembled for me. And assembled for everyone that's connected to me. So what I did that day, I made a few phone calls. I said, what do you guys think about that? I have, a few influential friends. I said, what do you think about this concept that I'm getting ready to explain to the audience now? They said, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's needed. It's wanted. Look, how much you want me to invest into it? And I just, I had the idea of understanding that the next wave of living will be for the creative to be up front. If you're going to be, I believe you're going to be relevant in the next wave of life, you have to be brave to create. And so what I did that day, I made a few phone calls. I said, I need to LLC this company immediately.
Right.
So Imagine Me initially was a millennial perspective that I was going to come out with. So if I ask,
Tell the audience what the ages of the millennial.
oh, so the ages of millennial, I believe now it stops from because it has been fluctuating. I don't want to say it incorrectly. So let me come back. Can I come back to you with that?
Okay.
Because I don't want to say that incorrectly. But it's had fluctuated because I'm getting older. And I'm seeing myself walk out of the millennial perspective. So I believe it had stopped at like almost near 40, but at the same time, I'm going to come back to that. There's 3 tiers. If you ask any millennial today, where is there something inside of you that you need to get out of you? I've polled them, I've asked them, I've questioned them. They say, yeah, it's something that I need to get out of me. I just don't have the opportunity to do it. I say, well, what if I created a platform where you can do it, perpetually on a constant basis? They say, well, we'll do it. We'll run to it. So what I've done is created a three-tier type establishment where millennials, not just millennials now, everyone that has just a made-up mind that they want to be better. That they can come from and explain themselves from a social, an economical, and a relational aspect. Let's deal with the social first. Social is where they're able to express themselves, come to I renovated a barbershop, great house barbershop and beauty there in Southfield, Michigan on West 9 Mile Road, where they can come on a monthly basis and hear from CEOs,
right?
Hear from athletes, hear from rappers.
It's kind of like Sebastian's.
Sebastian, good friend of mine.
Oh yeah, and his wife was my student.
Okay.
Gabrielle. Yes. Okay. So it's where you could come and get the wisdom.
Yes.
Okay. The next piece is the what after social.
The social is the economical. So what you have there is once you're able to express yourself socially, then we've created a room where you have all of these different personalities. You have these different business owners. You have these different professionals where wherever you're lacking, this professional or this band of brother and sisterhood will be able to pull you up and be able to give you the resources to be able to evolve in life. So what we do also is brand management, where we're able to take wherever your creative thinking is, go in and be able to transition it or help and elevate it in any type of way or capacity that you might want. So that's the economic aspect, where you should not be lacking anything when you join this Imagine Me umbrella.
Okay, and last was the relational.
If you ask anyone out here today about the hanging out or just the nightlife here in Detroit, it's getting boring. It's getting played out. So what I wanted to do from a relational aspect is get people in a room. Once we've grown you socially, once we've grown you economically, the Bible tells us in the Word that it's not good for man to be alone. So if it's not good for man to be alone, it's obviously not good for a woman to be alone either. So what I want to do, and I'm going to do, is create a gala type experience where people up under the Imagine Me umbrella, or not just the Imagine Me umbrella, people in general can come and party or hang out in a professional way, or hang out in a classy way where you can literally find your life partner after you've grown socially and economically.
Right. Wow, wow, wow. Well, how can people contact you?
Well, on Instagram, it's Imagine Me _ LLC. On Facebook, it's Imagine Me without the _ LLC. You can contact me there, and then on my website, it's Imagine Me.
Julian Hayes, everyone. That's, I want to say.
Yeah, that's my name. Then on the website is Imagine Me LLC at gmail.com.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Julian, I wish you the best.
Thank you. I appreciate this.
I love your energy. I just love what you have to say. And you've been through some things. It's good when people have been through some things, they're able to help other people get through things.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Got to wrap it up. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
I forgot. So everybody, we'll be back in just a moment with a very special table talk with Cheryl Ajamu and Mr. Ellis Liddell. Talk to you in a minute.
Take care.